Hello and welcome back to another video. So today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. Something that people used to do all the time years ago, but not something I see so much now. And I decided I'm going to share with you my entire European PAL Dreamcast collection. It's certainly not all the games that were ever released in the European territories. It's just the games that I happen to own myself. Not covering any homebrew, any American titles or any Japanese titles. That would have to be a separate video altogether, because I've got nearly as many games in those territories as well. So really this is something I've built up over probably the last 3 or 4 years. I'm not sure how much of this I've actually shared on YouTube anyway, because a lot of it was acquired when I wasn't really making videos. So with that being said, we'll go through it. Some of the games I've played extensively, some I've hardly played at all, so try and touch on that, I suppose, as we go along. So first up is Aero Wings. Recently acquired this, and it's actually like a flight display team simulator of sorts. I guess it's kind of high concept. It's got very mixed reviews online, but I found it strangely satisfying for the hour or so that I've played it, and it's certainly something that I look forward to putting a bit more time into. So I don't know if I recommend that as like, yeah, this is a must-have game, but if you're into weird, quirky titles, then you may well find some value in that particular game. Next up is F1 World Grand Prix 2 for the Sega Dreamcast. I've played this a little bit with the steering wheel. A very good F1 game. Not that I'm the biggest Formula 1 fan in the world. I'm not sure what I'm showing in the back of the box. Extremely uninteresting. But yeah, this is thought by many to be one of the finest Formula 1 games of this generation. And it plays really well with the wheel. So if you were looking at getting all the driving games for the wheel, definitely one to pick up. So next up is Virtual Striker 2, version 2000. I'm not entirely sure. I've got a funny feeling this was a gift from Carl. It may well have been, but either way, it's a fantastic football game. Really do like this, and I have fond memories of seeing this in the arcades when I used to go on holiday with my parents all those years ago. And definitely worth playing. There's not that many football games on the Dreamcast, but this is one that's a lot of fun, certainly when you've got a friend to play it with. So next we have Wetrix, and I have played this game absolutely loads. It's a very strange game. It's slightly flawed with the angle, sort of how you see things, the perception of it all. It's easy enough to make a gap and ruin your game, but with that being said, it is highly addictive trying to get the best score and progress through the levels, and I would wholeheartedly recommend this. I know it was also released on the N64, but I've not played that version, but this is well worth checking out. So chilled out. It's the sort of game you put on and end up losing 2 or 3 hours to. So yeah, definitely a cracking game. Next we have Confidential Mission, a light gun game. I do happen to have both of the major light guns for the Dreamcast, and this is a really cool game. It is very difficult, I find, unless you kind of cheat, because one of the guns I've got the Mad Cat's gun. It sort of automatically reloads and all the rest of it, and it does make things so much easier. But with a friend, perhaps it's more manageable. But as far as light gun games go on the Dreamcast, this is one of the best. So next we have a game that really does split opinion. Mainly people saying this is the worst thing ever, and it's Spirit of Speed 1937. Now, I absolutely love an underdog, so to me, I had to give this a good chance, and I hooked up the steering wheel, and I've made numerous videos about this game, and yes, it is inherently flawed in numerous ways, but with that being said, I've still found some enjoyment. I can't remember exactly how much I paid for this, but I think it was less than $5, and for that price, although I wouldn't recommend this game, if you're really interested, you probably won't be that disappointed if you're willing to give it a bit of a chance. It's certainly a strange concept, racing in that era, and although it is, as I say, flawed, I can't say I've not at least enjoyed playing it, if only to sort of laugh at those sort of things. So next up, a racing game that's actually relatively decent, Four Wheel Thunder. Now the only problem with this game is it is extremely difficult. I've never been able to beat it myself, but graphically and the way it performs, it's outstanding. It's got a brilliant 2-player mode as well, and you can get this even today for less than a tenner. I think you can get it for about £6 delivered, so happy days, well worth picking up, I think. So another racing game. You'll notice a theme here, I've got a lot of racing games. It's Wacky Races, and if you're a fan of the cartoon series in any way whatsoever, get this game if you've got a Dreamcast. I think it was also released on the PlayStation 1, but this is so good, it really is. Yeah, some of the tracks aren't the best designed, but in terms of the characters, the sound, and everything else about this game, it's brilliant. One of my favourites on the Dreamcast, and I would wholeheartedly recommend picking this one up. And sticking in a similar theme, it's Looney Tunes Space Race, and again, I would definitely recommend picking this up. I remember a friend of mine having this with a PS2 and raving about it, but as soon as I got it for the Dreamcast, I was in love straight away, and I've pretty much played through nearly the entire game. Graphically, it's superb. Yeah, it's got some questionable elastic banding and all the rest of it, but it works both ways, and I think for the most part, it makes it a better game. And again, I would definitely recommend picking this up if you've got a Dreamcast. Cracking game. So another racing game, and it's San Francisco Rush 2049. I've not played it that much. Online, people really rave about this, the 4-player mode and the stunt mode and all the rest of it. And graphically and performance-wise, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It does bring back some memories of the Midway series, the Rush games on the arcades. And it's certainly a decent game if you can pick it up for a reasonable price. I don't see why you wouldn't want to add it to your collection. So this game definitely came from Carl, and it's Chuchu Rocket, and I love this. I've only had the pleasure of playing it in 4-player once, but it was absolutely brilliant. It's a cracking game, and I can only imagine how cool it would have been online back in the day. Definitely I've got to hook up, got to get some sort of game night going, get this hooked up and get a group of people playing this, because I think this is probably one of the finest 4-player games of its era. Another game here from Carl, Daytona USA 2001. This is brilliant. It's got a bit of a bad reputation. I think that's probably based upon the American and the Japanese release, because I'm not 100% sure, but I know for definite in this one you can adjust the analog controller sensitivity and make it so much more playable, although with the wheel it is a superb game. And as far as Daytona goes, I think this is the best version there is. So, recommend it? Yes, certainly. If you're a Daytona fan, buy this without any doubt. So more racing. I'm sorry, I should have mixed these up a bit better. I think we're moving away from racing soon though, and this is Magforce Racing, sort of Wipeout-esque futuristic racing game. And yeah, I quite like it. I've got to the point, I think, either you play through the tracks, then you sort of level up and you get this sort of different crafts. And I think I've got to about the 4th level of craft, and at this point, it's absolutely insane. I can barely do anything but pinball across all the tracks and lose. So I've sort of plateaued with it. But before then, the few hours I spent playing it to get to that point, I really enjoyed it, and I love the techno soundtrack. So again, if you can get this at the right place, right price, or you're just curious about these kind of things, I recommend picking this up. Our next game is amazing. I've played this pretty much all the way through. I was totally hooked on it, and it's Jet Set Radio. Graphically, there's not much like it. Certainly in terms of cel-shaded, it's just king of the hill. Absolutely brilliant game. I love the story on it. The music is unbelievable. I could just have this running in the background, the attract screen, as it goes through all the different modes and the music all day long. To me, this is one of the best games on the Dreamcast, probably top 5. And if you've got a Dreamcast, you've got to get this. You've got to. Absolutely. So next up, another must-have, Soulcalibur. So this, graphically, is just head and shoulders above anything that was released at the time. And it's a fantastic fighting game from Namco. I was a big fan of the original on the arcades and on the PlayStation, but this just blows them out of the water graphically. And even today, it still looks absolutely gorgeous. So, yeah, if you've got a Dreamcast, you need to get that. Definitely. You need to get that in Jet Set Radio before you even get home and plug it in. Now, next is a game that I didn't think I'd enjoy that much, But strangely, I've completed this, and I didn't play anything else for about a month, and it's Raymond 2, The Great Escape. It's probably not that difficult a game. Certainly if I've completed it, it's not that difficult, but just everything about it is such a well presented package, graphically, the audio in it, the story. It's just a fantastic game, and one I just couldn't put down, and definitely recommend this. Another essential title in my opinion. I think it was also released on the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, but I can only vouch for the Dreamcast version, which was brilliant. So next we have a game, Red Dog Superior Firepower. I have played this a bit. It gets quite difficult, very interesting concept. You're sort of a battle tank, sort of mobile vehicle kind of thing, and you just go around blowing up everything and fighting the evil forces or whatever else. I think it's got some pretty cool multiplayer modes as well, but I've never actually experienced them. But definitely a good game if you find it at the right price. Next, a classic, absolute classic, probably essential I'd say on Dreamcast, Crazy Taxi. Everyone loves it, and I have to say it is such a good conversion on the Dreamcast. It really is. A lot of these early Dreamcast games that were the conversions of the arcade originals were just killer. We'd never seen anything like it. Absolutely brilliant. So next we have a game I've spent quite a bit of time with. I've got to the point where I can't get any further, which seems to be a thing that happens to me all the time with games. I'll get so far and I just hit a brick wall and I can't get past it, and it's Star Lancer. Now, technically this is fantastic, and really it's right up my street. It's sort of a space shooter, 3D based, very much like sort of a Star Trek, Star Wars theme, and it's got a hell of a lot going for it, and if you're a fan of that kind of thing, well worth checking out. There's not much like it on the Dreamcast anyway. So next we have a shoot 'em up, Gigglewing. I remember being keen to get this after seeing many gameplays on YouTube, people speaking ecstatically about it, and also playing it at the Retro Gaming Computer Museum events with the 2 arcade sticks. I have to say, it's fantastic. It really is, completely over the top, massive points, bullets all over the place, tokens, bonuses, well worth getting. There's not that many European released shoot 'em ups on the Dreamcast, and this is certainly one of the best ones. So back to a bit of racing, and it's Hazuki All Star Extreme Racing. It's a bike game. It's from Criterion, the developers of the Burnout series. And I have to say, I quite like this. Again, I've reached a point where I can't progress any further. It's just become too difficult. But I've spent many hours getting there. So in terms of value for money, this has been well worth the purchase. And I think even today, this is a very cheap title. A lot of these games you can still get for under a tenner, which I think is superb value for money, really. This one is an absolute essential purchase for me. I've played this so much on Xbox Live Arcade, it's criminal, and the Dreamcast version is just as good, if not better. In fact, I think maybe even the Xbox Live Arcade release was based on this, but just brilliant. I love Hydro Thunder. This is another top 5 title for me on the Dreamcast, and if you've got one, you've not got this, got to sort it out. This is just hours and hours and hours and hours of fun. It's just such a great game, especially with a friend. So next we get a game that I've not really played. It's Conflict Zone. A lot of people raved to me about this, sort of a Command & Conquer-esque strategy game, which I am a fan of, and I'm sure at some point I'll perhaps dig my teeth into it and play a bit more of it, but I got it for a very reasonable price, and it's pretty much been in that sort of sealed state ever since then. So last but not least is a game that I decided to take a punt on. Very mixed reviews on it, and I have to say I strangely enjoyed it. It's Championship Surfer. Probably shouldn't have liked this as much as I did. I swear I spent about an hour and a half even just like trying to get used to even being able to play this, but once I got a taste for it and knew what to do, I was flying through the levels, and yeah, strangely addictive, just very relaxing. There's so many games on the Dreamcast that have such weird concepts that I kind of like, and I think that's what I really enjoy about the system. So that's it. That's all the European games I've got. So if you watched all the way through that video, thank you very much, and hopefully I'll upload some more soon. Take care out there.